today we're going to be talking a lot about hormones. We're going to be talking about gut health, mindset, emotional eating. I actually have an expert with us, so I'm very excited to introduce you to Amber. She is the emotional eating, digestive, hormonal expert. Got them all, I think.
You sure did. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Thank you. This is going to be such a fun conversation because I also have Shay with us from the Waiting Table podcast.
Hello,
Uh,
hello.
Me and her are both big about hormones and figuring it out and what we can do better and what we need to tell our doctors. So, um, let's start this off with Amber. So, how did you get into this field? Let's start with that.
Yeah, it was definitely by accident. So I initially went to school to be like an entertainment TV host. I was like, I
Oh,
want to be on TV. And then things did a whole 360 when I fell deep into a dark hole of binge eating, bulimia, food addiction, and emotional eating in my early 20s. Essentially, long story short, I had always used food unconsciously, knowing I was at a young age. And then it all hit the fan when I was about 2021. So when I was 5, I ended up with body image issues. It was my first day taking the school bus, and the older boys called me fat and ugly. And I really deeply took that on and embodied that identity for the next 20 years of my life because I didn't know how to brush stuff like that off. And then, as well, I think growing up, my mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis before I was born.
oh,
And so I think I had to really like just hang on to everything, and I didn't know how to process things. It's very stressful and honestly traumatic watching your mom significantly decline and
yeah,
lose control of her body when you're a child and you care so much for your mother, especially being, right, a daughter. And
yeah.
so grieving through all of that and feeling helpless and out of control. And also, she had a food addiction. I didn't know she did at the time, but as I healed and witnessed her habits, I was like, interesting, like how, part of I inherited this from her. And so food was always available everywhere. Everything we did, there was
Mhm.
food. And I think it was a way for her to compensate with some of the other things we weren't able to do together.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of unconsciously birthed this sugar addiction and this food addiction. But when I was 20, I had my first real breakup, was so hurt I couldn't eat, lost a lot of weight really quickly,
Okay.
started over exercising, under eating, thought because of all the conditioning from like the diet and fitness industry,
Mhm.
once you lose weight, you'll finally be happy and it'll fix
Yes.
everything, right? So I'm just like, oh, this is the answer to everything. And obviously it didn't fix anything. And now I'm like heavily restricting. My period is gone. I'm underweight. I'm very critical of myself. It didn't fix anything. So then it was kind of this like, what's the point
Hmm.
moment? And
Okay.
then I had my first memorable binge where I ate so much that I just felt so horribly sick. And that just birthed the cycle of overeating, binge eating, and then, all or nothing where I'm all in binging, losing control, or I'm all out trying to like fix it, gain control with a diet, exercise, right? Going to the gym for 3 hours, trying to burn it all off.
Mm.
Yeah. So it just created this like perfect storm of complete self sabotage. And then I gained 80 pounds in 4 months, was the heaviest that I had ever been, and then was just so stuck in the cycle of binge eating. Went through binging and purging for 6 months, thinking it would prevent weight gain. And, I'll just, whatever, if I binge, I'll just purge. It just will fix everything. And of course, coming to realize the detriments to that and
Yeah.
how destructive that was, and that I was lacking taking ownership and responsibility by doing both the behaviors, but especially the purge. So I stopped that. And then it was when I had my low point moment that I was really prompted to get on my healing journey, which was about 2 years into this. I was binge eating most nights of the week. Like, it's no lie in my bio when I say I lost and gained over 1,000 pounds in 5 years, because I was up and down 30, 40, 50 pounds every few months over
Wow.
that period of time. And I was going to the organic store, justifying why going to the organic store and buying the food to binge
Mm.
was a healthier choice, even though I'm literally eating a table full of food. It doesn't matter when you're eating that volume, it
Yep.
is so hard on your body. And so spending a lot of money on it as well. So my low point moment was one night where I had become aware I was binge eating. I was finally able to identify this is what I was doing. I actually didn't know for the first year and a half that that's what I was doing.
Okay.
And so I threw the food in the garbage because I'm like, if I throw it away, I'm going to be turned off. Who eats out of their garbage can? I don't. And then, of course, some of my food settled. And there's that little, I call it the ego mind, but the inner critic that is like, don't binge, but that's like, this is the last time you're going to do that. You should just go eat the cookies. No one will know.
Yep.
And so I dug through the garbage, ate the cookies, thought that that was like the low point moment, was like crying on my bathroom or my kitchen floor in shame. And then I threw them in the dumpster in the back alley, went and ate them out of the dumpster and was like, this is
Oh,
okay, I got to get honest with myself. I've been in this denial. This is a serious problem.
yeah.
This is consuming my life. I'm not going to make 30 if I keep in this level of destructive behavior. I'm broke and I like, not, like, what the heck? Why is this happening? And I'm like, I've got to actually give this attention now and figure this out. I can no longer be like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like,
Right.
food is my friend. Like, so that was like the moment where the fear of change, fear of unknown, and the discomfort was crushed by the level of suffering that I was experiencing physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, financially, on all levels, because it was everything.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're so open and honest about that
Mm-hmm.
because I've heard of people going through the binging and purging, but I've never heard them actually say, like, hey, I got a whole table worth of food
Oh, yeah.
and I
Yeah.
ate it all. I threw some of it away and still went and got it. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard of people doing that, but never someone actually say it. So, one, thank you so much for sharing something like that hard to share. Did you have any family or friends that noticed or was trying to help you in any way
No,
or
I didn't
no?
want anyone to know. And I
Mm-hmm.
think part of that was like what my mom was going through. And I'm like, there was this mentality of I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to stress anyone out. And no one really would understand anyway. So that's kind of what I had taken on. I know some of my friends would notice I would lose weight and then gain a lot of weight. And I think they were just like, are you okay? But there was just so much shame and embarrassment behind what I was doing that I just did not feel comfortable telling anyone. I went once in the beginning of my healing to see a psychologist, and I don't want to poo-poo any practitioners. There's amazing ones in all fields, and then there's some that just don't resonate for us, right? In every field. And so it was the first time I actually opened up about it, and I poured my heart out to her and shared everything. And she looked at me and was like, just don't go to the store and buy the food. Just love yourself. And I'm thinking, if it was that easy, I would stop. But like,
Yeah.
clearly, like, I don't know how to stop, so otherwise I wouldn't be here. So that caused me to binge, that whole experience. And then I'm like, okay, I think I have to figure this out myself. There was this like little like voice that was just like, you're gonna figure it out, you got to figure it out yourself, you will, just like take a step and like trust like this invisible guidance. And
Okay.
I guess now I get why, right? But that's what guided me from that point on was, okay, let me just take a first step. Let me start learning about sugar because I'm so addicted to it and I can't stop eating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I started to change the way that I ate, not in a restrictive way, but like more whole foods, protein. I'm like, what is protein even? How does protein help me feel satiated? And fat? Are we
Yep.
supposed to be afraid of fat? I thought fat was bad because that's what we were taught in the
Mm-hmm.
90s, right? So yeah, so that was a big part. And then it really hit when I wanted to binge on a whole jar of natural peanut butter and 10 bananas, or like a whole huge bag of cashews and like a whole bag of gluten-free brown rice pasta and goat cheese. That I'm like, this isn't just about food. This is so
Mm-mm.
much deeper.
Yep.
And that's when I was
Yep.
like, wow, I hate my body. I don't love myself. I feel unworthy. I suck at coping with stress. I have no idea how to cope with stress at all. I don't even know what's triggering me. So maybe I should start to like explore these things and
Yeah.
figure these things out. Like, I'm obsessed with the number on the scale. It literally used to dictate everything. Like, if I was not below a certain weight, I wouldn't go out and be social. I wouldn't see my friends. I wouldn't date. I wouldn't go on trips. I was so
Wow.
rigid with that because I was just terrified to be judged, especially after the weight loss and then the weight gain. You're just
Mm-hmm.
like, you're getting so validated and complimented so much. And then,
And
everyone's
it's
opening the
gone.
door and then you gain the weight and like people are looking at you, no one's opening the door. And you're like, wow, like society really perceives people differently. And it's so
So
sad.
sad. So sad.
Right? Like, so yeah, so that is really what catapulted me really into the healing, was understanding every single thing that was triggering me and learning that emotional and binge eating is not just because I'm sad or bored or lonely. It's literally, I've wired a pathway in my brain because I'm doing it every night. And so even if there's a night where I don't want to do it, that pathway in my brain is lighting up going, this is no, you do this, you do this, you do this, because the brain can't tell good pathways from bad ones. Right. So learning that was mind blowing because I'm like, I don't want to binge. Why all of a sudden do I want to binge?
Yep.
Right. And then learning that, yes, there's emotional eating triggers, that I have this void that I'm trying to fill with food, right? That I'll never fill with food, that I need to learn how to love myself. But that then, as I start learning about like gut issues and candida, and I had horrible candida. It makes you crave sugar and increases your appetite level, and my blood sugar was a mess, and hormone imbalances, and how those can become emotional eating triggers. And like my dopamine was so low, my cert, like there's just, it blew my mind
Yeah.
that I literally ended up with a list of like 8 or 9 dozen triggers, and I'm like, no
Whoa.
wonder
Mm-hmm.
it was so easy to give in, because there's often several triggers happening at once. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the reasons why so many people struggle to overcome these behaviors, is because it's like, go on this diet, cut these foods, like focus on calories. And it's like, no, you need to understand what's triggering you, because until you do and you deal with it, you will continue to repeat the same
Mm-hmm.
habits and behaviors, because your triggers are teachers.
Oh, yeah. Because,
Yeah.
like, at certain times at night, I get the feeling of, like, oh, I need to eat. And then I'm like, why? I don't
Mm-hmm.
actually need something right now. But it's like around 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, ooh, what can I get? And it's because I
Mm-hmm.
made that pathway so
Mm-hmm.
often. And people don't, I love that you said that our neural pathways don't know if it's good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
because I've actually never heard someone say that. I've thought it. I didn't never knew if it was true or not, but thank you for saying that, because that, guys, that is so wildly true. Like,
Yeah.
we
Mm-hmm.
really don't know. Like, it's just whatever your habit is, it gets really used to that. So,
Yeah.
and I have to tell myself at night, no, you do not. No, you do not. And I actually change sceneries now. Like, if I feel that in the living room, then I'm like, nope, we're turning off everything and I go to the bedroom,
Yeah.
because I need to like break that. And that's the one way I've learned how to do it. I don't know if that's going to work for other people, but for me, it took me literally till this year. So I've been on this journey for almost a decade. Well, actually, I've been on it for a decade. And literally year 10, I'm learning, oh, I have these neurotransmitters and this
Mm-hmm.
pathway that I've created. How do I stop that? And
Yeah.
I have
Mm-hmm.
to, it's just like anything else. You have to pull yourself completely out of it
Yeah.
and change what you're doing. And you have to, one, become aware too. So it's like a whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's deep, it's
Hmm.
multi-layered, and that's why I say it's, don't be hard on yourself if you've been trying to heal this and you keep what feels like failing, because we have not been
Hmm.
educated properly on all the interconnections between these behaviors.
Yeah.
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 There's a lot to your story that I relate to as well. Like I got diagnosed with PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, in like my mid 20s, and again, weight loss or weight issues, binging. I never purged, but I definitely had binging tendencies. And just hearing everything you're saying and how it works all together, I'm like putting myself back in that spot where before I got my diagnosis for PCOS, I had a lot of issues that it felt so overwhelming, where it's like, I don't even know where to start. I have so
Hmm.
many different messages coming at me. What should I do next? And so I'm just thinking about the people maybe who are listening right now and maybe in a similar phase where it's like, whoa, that was just a lot of information. I relate so much to it. I don't even know what the first baby step is though to get
Hmm.
started. So like, Mm-hmm. do you have any recommendations, or like where do I get started when I'm just feeling lost and I don't even know what to do because it feels so overwhelming?
Great
Yeah,
question.
100%. First thing, you're not alone. Try
Yes.
to lift the shame and gift yourself grace. It's honestly not your fault. And I think that's the thing, is we need to not be so hard on ourselves, and no, we're not the only one, and that you can heal. Like if I can heal, you can heal, we can heal, anyone can. And I want you to believe in yourself, even if you don't have all the answers yet. The second thing is start that list of triggers. Take a
Okay.
moment. We have to be willing to dedicate time to our healing. We cannot be running around like a chicken with our head cut off and expect the healing to happen, right? So many women feel guilty prioritizing themselves. They
Hmm.
feel like they have to take care of everyone else. They're people pleasing, they're perfectionists, and this is all stem from that unworthiness. And so starting to go, hey, you know what? I'm wanting to spend 5 to 10 minutes a few days a week. We'll make it really small. I just want to sit. I want to reflect. If I did emotionally eat or binge this week, what triggered me? Ideally, if you can do it afterward, great, but let's start small.
Yeah.
Were you stressed? Were you tired? Did you miss a meal by accident? Was there foods that were tempting that you overdid it with, right? Did you get on the scale? You didn't like the number that you saw, but can you start a collection of things that you're already aware of, that these are definitely triggers for me? Because starting that list is going to help you become aware of, okay, Oh, I'm kind of getting into that mood again. Let me pull up my list and actually check in first before I just go to food. And then I think the third thing is a really important question that we need to start asking ourselves, which is, am I actually physically hungry or is this
Mhm.
emotional? Now, the only kind of like inhibitor is so many women are like, I'm never hungry. So how can I tell the difference? And if you don't have a hunger signal, there's likely something going on with your stomach acid, your thyroid, your metabolism, or some form of hormone imbalance, right? There's hunger hormones, all kinds of things. So ideally, we want to sort that out
Yeah.
so you can get your hunger signal back because we should have one and a fullness signal. But otherwise, signs you're hungry. You get a hunger signal, your stomach growls. You look at the clock, you realize you haven't eaten in a few hours. Your blood sugar has crashed, so you waited way too long, right? You're dizzy,
Mhm.
faint, hangry, lightheaded. Now you're craving sugar. You're pale and sweaty. We don't want to get to that point, but these are physical cues that probably you need some fuel. And then I find emotional eating is everything else.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Agreed.
So start asking which one is it? Because when I start working with women, like they're like, oh wow, 90% of the time it's actually emotional hunger. It's not physical.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
that really helps them start to see how often they're going to food when they don't really need it.
Oh yeah, because like when back back 10 years ago, that's all I did was just emotionally eat. And then being on this journey and talking to people like you and therapists and other bariatric patients, I've learned that like you have to just put everything. I am a big journaler. So,
Hmm.
um, like doing a mind dump really has
Yep.
helped me. And then, yeah, like halting, like I use that acronym, like that's the hunger, anger,
Mm.
loneliness, or tired. And so, like, when I'm just like aimlessly looking through my cupboards, because I know I'm not the only one that does that, we're like, why am I here? How did I get
Right.
here?
Yeah.
And that's normally a tell for me that, oh, this isn't food. This
Yeah.
is something's going on up here that's making me want to get up and look everywhere else. And so just being more aware and being able to stop yourself. That one stop actually does so much like goodness for you because then you start questioning things.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard in the beginning of especially bariatric journeys because the first year it's like honeymoon phase. You're not supposed to have a hunger cue because they
Yeah.
take the ghrelin out. So
Right.
it starts coming year 2 and 3, and that's where people go kind of like, what do I do? I'm very
Yeah.
scared. I'm eating more. I can't tell if it's emotional or not. So, like what we're telling you guys is just anytime you feel hunger, I would just stop for a minute or two. That's what I
Hmm.
do now. If it's not past my time, then I'm like, I have to really think about this.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think it's so important that we stop and build awareness because the only way we can heal is if we pause and start understanding how I'm feeling and why and what I'm doing.
Yes. 100%.
And one question I was going to ask, because you did a really great job of talking about like what those hunger cues physically feel like, or, because we don't, especially for bariatric patients, we don't always feel the
Hmm.
growling in our stomach. But I love that you gave those other examples of, am I feeling a headache or lightheaded or dizzy, nauseous? There's other ways to tell if you're hungry. For people that might not know what it feels like when your body is getting triggered, would you mind walking us through what that feels like for you? Because I know for everybody it's a
Hmm.
little bit different, but I think that would be helpful to hear
Yes.
what
Yeah.
physically that feels like for you.
Totally. So yeah, when I used to be triggered from a physical standpoint, my whole body would feel tense and tight, right?
Okay.
Because I'm in a stress response, something is stressing me out, or I'm stressed about the fact that I'm trying to fight off another binge episode, but I can't. My cravings for sugar are a 12 out of 10. I am like a sugar junkie at the time. So physical sugar cravings and cravings for baked goods were massive. So that was another big thing. And then it was a lot of like, just it's like there was this pull, like it's you literally feel this pull, and that's that pathway that's literally lighting up, and it's just like it just would feel easier to give in than to try and fight through the urge. And that's the way I can describe it, is just that tension, the tightness, and this, oh my gosh, like just the thought of giving in feels like it's going to just be easier and I'll get relief, versus if I try to deny it and fight it and avoid it, I just feel like I'm going to be so stressed and white knuckling it for the whole night that it's just easier to give in.
Mm.
And then the anticipation on the other side of it, which was like I'd start thinking about binge eating, And as we start anticipating the reward of eating the food, I start producing dopamine, one of my mood boosting neurotransmitters. And I'm like, I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. We're going to get ice cream and donuts and like brownies and a sandwich and ice, like chocolate, like everything. And I'm so excited. I've decided, screw trying to fight through it. I'm going to go do this. And then it would like the fight or flight would go away and the dopamine's pumping. And then I get everything and like take my first few bites. And it's like the world just, nothing mattered in that moment. But so it's like Jekyll and Hyde. At first it's like the fight or flight and like the cravings. And then it's like dopamine, nothing matters. This is all that matters.
It's like the anxiety turns into excitement. I think it was a therapist who said that it's like your body responds the same way to both of those things, anxiety and excitement, but it's different approaches, I guess.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what it would feel like. And then it would all happen again for the 50 millionth time and just end up in the same place.
Well, and I felt exactly that. And what sucked was, and it's still to this day, once I finally have like a bite or two, it's like I don't even taste the food anymore.
No.
Isn't that so weird? It's like I just really needed a bite or two. I don't need this whole thing of like 2 scoops of ice cream and like the fudge on top. Like that's just what my brain wanted. But once I have it, I'm like, oh crap. Do I finish it? Do I not finish it? I'm like, a little bit more won't hurt. But then I'm like, but I'm not even tasting it. It's like a whole thing in my head. I'm like having this huge conversation. And sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. It's just,
And you bring up a really good point, and I think this is another thing that is not necessarily dissected accurately in these conversations, which is the voice in the mind, along with the desire to chase the dopamine high and the way the brain is wired. So I refer to the inner critic as the ego mind. It is the voice in your mind that has been programmed to encourage and enable you to self-sabotage, but then picks you apart and like makes you feel like a piece of crap because you keep giving into it. And I often find there is not a lot of awareness that this is not the true you. This is like your wounded inner child that, has been calling the shots since childhood, right? That's really what's this voice is birthed from, and this voice is birthed from the ego in society, right? You have to look a certain way. It's all about money and, your success and your external life and the way you carry yourself versus like the internal, which is truly everything.
Yeah.
And then you look at movies, look at the movie Mean Girl, where they're like belittling her because she's gained weight. And when she asks for a bigger dress size, they're like, we don't sell anything bigger, try Sears. Like they're so belittling, and that just feeds our ego mind. And then we can create all these identities around, right? Like behaving in those ways or taking that on and perceiving females and male bodies in certain ways. And so one of the things that's so important and pivotal on this journey to healing is actually identifying the voice that lives in the mind is not the true me. The true me actually lives in my heart, and is the part of me that is like terrified to go on the journey, but also knows that the healing is crucial for like me to be who I really am and have a healthy, happy life. And so the ego will constantly talk you out of trying to heal, encourage you to go binge, but then again, shame you because you did it, belittle you for your weight, nothing's going to work, you're worthless, you're not good enough. Like that narrative, if you let it, will take over and consume you. And so it's so important that we also work on dissecting, okay, what is your ego chatter and how do you feel emotionally when your ego's in control, which is all negative emotion. And then when you're in your power, you feel confident, you feel faith, trust, hope, gratitude. I believe in myself. I don't maybe have all the answers, but I just know I'm going to get there. And you start cheering yourself on. And that's a big part of, I think, the work as we get more into it is really learning how to take our power back from that ego voice, because otherwise we think it's us and we just will let it run the show for life. And we will not live our most empowering like experience if that like limiting voice is calling the shots.
Oh yeah. And I guess my question to you is, how did you fight that? How did you get past that? Like what can we tell our listeners to do?
Yeah. I think the first thing was starting to become aware of what it felt like when I gave my power away to it. So it was like that tension, fear, worry, anxiety, needing control, right? I was going into negative self-talk. You should just go eat. Nothing's ever going to change. The fuck it mentality, like all of that. Or I get on the scale and didn't like the number. A day is ruined. You might as well go binge. It's not working. So being aware that that was who I was when that part of me was in control.
Okay.
And just then finding my breath. oh, wow, okay, maybe you want to give your ego a name. Some of my clients name their ego, right? And they're like, oh, Sally's just being extra like bitchy right now and she's really worked up, right? Like, okay, thanks for your opinion. I'm going to breathe first. And I'm going to maybe do a little bit of something, like you said, like I'm going to go to a different room and like change the environment. I'm going to get outside. I'm going to pull out my journal. I'm going to cuddle with my dog, but I'm going to just do something to like pattern interrupt. Because once we start doing that, we actually go, okay, I'm going to do something to get maybe a little more grounded. And those activities help us get back into our heart, which is where we truly reside, and helps regulate our nervous system and get us out of that fight or flight and into rest and digest. So, there's different self-care practices and activities that we can start using to help us shift that narrative.
Yeah.
And then it's practicing. Oh yeah, I can definitely tell I'm in my ego when I'm reactive and I'm being the victim and poor me and I want to yell at everyone and cause conflict. Like that's all ego. I'm in a lack state. And then, yeah, wow. Oh, I really felt worked up when I chatted with, my colleague today, but I didn't freak out at her. I didn't blame her. We had a civil conversation and I was mindful with right? Like, wow, I handled that really well. And then if I have to get angry at home because it's not her fault, it's mine that I'm reacting, I'm going to go, do some breathing or scream into my pillow or whatever, because I need to own my stuff and deal with it and not put it on other people. So this is kind of started the shift that starts to happen. Wow, I want to binge. My ego wants me to binge, but do I really want to? What is it going to cost me if I do this? How am I going to feel afterward? And that's actually starting to take your power back and go, okay, I have choice. I can do that or I can do this. What are the benefits of making a different choice? So that's how you start to like catch your ego and take your power back. And like you said, the first time you catch it and you don't do it, it's a huge confidence builder.
It is. I like naming it. I'm going to name mine now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. That separation, I think, is so important. Of like, I've been on a big journey, from having my weight loss surgery. It's been almost 3.5 years for me, and separating my identity. And I love how you said that before. But realizing that this is who I am, but those thoughts and feelings that I have, that's not who I am. And so I actually have several names for the different ones because they show up a bit differently, like for me, but shame is a really big one. And you've said that word a couple times, but oftentimes I'll go through and I'll go, oh, shame is telling me that I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not capable. And then I'll ask myself, okay, are those truths or are those lies? And they can sometimes feel a lot like truth, but in my gut, I know, no, those are lies. So what is the truth? I'm capable. I'm worthy. I'm loved. This does feel scary, or this is something new, and that's okay for it to feel that way, but I can totally do it, right? Like, and so I think having that separation from who I am and what my identity is versus what are these outside things coming in, that's been super, super helpful.
Yeah. I think it's a great ego practice to do it like that. Like there's so many ways for us to connect with that and take our power back. And I think, and it's programming. We've all been programmed. If you've had access to a television, to a radio, a magazine, right? Like we've been programmed, and part of it is what we inherit from our families, like shame or guilt, right? One of the things, that I see often is, kids who are told eat everything on your plate and then you can have dessert, but then they're ignoring their fullness cue, right? Or you got to eat everything on your plate. They're starving kids, and there's like this shame or this guilt, and then kids don't know when they're full, and then that can easily birth overeating habits that can accumulate. And healing that guilt as an adult takes some time because you're like, well, my mom, blah, blah, blah. And there's all this emotion in your nervous system. And so I think that it's so important for us to, again, understand where I received the conditioning. We're not blaming mom or blaming, but we're just observing, like, I've taken a lot on that isn't mine. And like you said, I'm not going to say this is me. This is some of the programming I received, and I'm going to give it love, and I can dissolve it and resolve it and build more of this me, this identity that I feel I really am. But being aware of our programming is also massive. Like it's so big. Like when your family is shaming you because you want to make yourself a priority because the family said, no, you got to put yourself last. Like that's a really disempowering thing to inherit from your family. Or maybe you inherited food addiction. Like I'm come from 5 lineages or like generations of hoarding and lack mentality from the Great Depression. And that's what birthed binge eating in my grandmother and my mother, right? So it's just so fascinating, all the facets and how it's been built within us. But also the exciting thing is you get to be the one who stops the generational behaviors. So
Oh yeah, the
yeah,
90s really did a number because I was a kid in the 90s
same.
and my mom was a mom in the 90s and she was told so much that like she believed that I was just too big to wear jeans because like I
Mm,
was a bigger kid, right? And I remember being in seventh grade being like, I want those flare jeans that everybody has. They're so cute. And mom's like, honey, I don't think we can find jeans in your size. Like, I just, like, she was just in her head, like, I don't know. Like, she looked a little
mm-hmm.
panicked. And we finally found them at
Yeah.
Shopco. But, like, that was the deal is that, like, I think she was also trained that, like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, we're not gonna be able to find these. Like, you're a big kid. She's a big mom. Like, mom was wearing more, like, she's always been kind of in the scrub life. Like, she's always done, like,
Mm,
CNA work, or right now, like, she does hospice work. So, she has always been in different types of clothes. She was never really in jeans either, especially in the 90s. And so it's like you can see how that really hit her and then went fell onto me.
yeah.
And like I dealt with that like for a long time of like my mom doesn't even think I can fit into clothes. Like that sucked for that year. But then now, like as an adult, I understand where that was coming from. It wasn't that she was like shaming me. It was more or less she was scared that she couldn't find me clothes because
Yeah,
she's been told
totally.
our whole life too that like we can't wear these clothes. Like we don't get to wear the cool stuff. Like she's always used
Yeah.
to big prints too and things being sparkly when they shouldn't be sparkly. So like I totally get it. And you're an expert also with the hormonal stuff and with us women, like one we don't know much about hormones. We try this research and learn and figure it out, but like I'm learning more and more to this day that hormones have more to deal with your weight gain, weight
Mm,
fluctuations,
mm-hmm.
not able to like even actually feel like anything is coming
Yeah.
from hormones. So how did you go from binge eating, figuring out your triggers, and then now you help with hormonal stuff?
Yeah, yeah. So that was actually one of the latter things that came on the journey was learning about hormones. So it was really understanding triggers, building a self-care practice with different things. Again, moving out of the room. I was in the living room. I'd go to the bath or the bedroom to start interrupting that pattern. And I started to work on catching the negative self-talk. So those are the
Okay.
things that I was working on in that like mid-healing that were really significant that I'm like, I gotta deal with this to stop doing this all the time. And once I stopped doing it, I really was working on reprogramming my subconscious mind with self-love because
Okay.
obviously that was a big block. And so catching negative self-talk, apologizing to myself, forgiving myself, and actually doing some inner child healing because she was so wounded from that poor bus experience and so many other things. And so helping her feel safe and connecting with her was very interesting. But for me, honestly, the mind fuck, and I just have to say it like that, was when I stopped binge eating and I gained 90 pounds. And I was like,
Oh,
what the heck? I do not
whoa.
understand, right? I'm
Yeah.
sleeping. I'm not binging. Like this should have, like, I just was completely dumbfounded. And this is what really prompted my journey into the hormone piece and the safety piece.
Okay.
So I really believe weight is a protective mechanism. We hang on to bodies because they don't feel safe, whether we're consciously aware of that or not. I do find for most women, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or beyond, there's at least one or several hormone imbalances going on that have not been properly identified, right, or brought to your attention that are, you're right, 100% contributing to weight gain, inflammation, puffiness, gut issues, blood sugar issues, PCOS, and so on. And so that part of the journey, which I'm grateful for, is where I started to learn about hormones.
Okay.
Before I even like got my education and started my business. And what was really coming up was all the that I'd put my body through was so stressful the last years with the easy weight loss and then all the weight gain and the going back and forth. And so what I often see and what I learned was that my cortisol is 10 times higher than it should have been. That's the stress hormone. We can talk more
Okay.
about that.
Hmm.
And that's usually the first hormone imbalance that starts to inhibit most women's ability to function properly and it starts to throw everything else off. But
Okay.
the irony is they don't like to test cortisol in Western medicine, and often they will argue with you and then tell you you don't need it or it's too expensive and you're too young to have a cortisol issue. So that's the
What?
first problem. Yeah, is that you can't like half the time they won't even test it. And then the next block is that the normal ranges on hormone testing or all blood work are far too big and there's a much smaller functional range that is actually normal and most women are having hormone imbalances in the normal range. And even if they're out of the normal range and they're flagged, they're like just breezing through, like, you're fine. Yeah, no problem. It's just in your head. It's just stress. And so that just is so disempowering for us, because then it's like, well, am I crazy? But like, I have a gut feeling, which feels like something is off, and like that didn't help at all. So now what do I do?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I got to get my cortisol down. Like, that's the thing. That's the issue. Because before you're well versed in hormones, you're like tunnel vision. It's just this one thing. I just need to get my cortisol down, right? So yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to just like sleep more, rest more, blah, 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 blah. But I'm still going to the gym 5 days a week. First thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Yeah. So the irony is, I start my business at a gym. I was renting an office in a gym, and like one of the trainers was like, we can train you pro bono and just like, you can coach us and we can trade. I'm like, sure. And so they're like essentially like a marathon personal trainer, like hit training me, like all the stuff. And I'm like gaining weight, and I'm like, I feel, what the heck? Like, I should be like not, and all the stuff anyway. So then I was like, okay, there's got to be other things going on. Then I looked at my thyroid function, and I had actually, through the high cortisol and all the self-sabotage, created a slight hypothyroid, which is where your thyroid is sluggish, your metabolism is sluggish, you don't feel hungry, you gain weight easily, anxiety, you're tired, like brain fogged, all kinds of things. And so I started to support that a little bit, but I was like, okay, well, I'll take this stuff and, you know, some selenium and eat Brazil nuts, and maybe that'll do the trick. And I'm still gaining weight, and I'm like, okay, what the heck? Yeah. And then I find out my progesterone is postmenopausal. I'm like 24, and I am postmenopausal with progesterone. I barely have any. And my estrogen is through the roof, like 10 times what it should be.
Whoa.
And like, I would be curious to know what my insulin was at the time. I don't think anyone tested it, but I guarantee you I had insulin resistance as well. Yeah. Like 100%. So I get all this information, and then I'm like doing more research and learning, and now taking like courses and studying with some of my colleagues who are experts in hormones, but holistic functional reading of tests. And they're like, cortisol's everything. And they're like, if your cortisol's off, your thyroid's going to continue to misbehave. You're not going to get your estrogen down. Your body's going to keep burning through and depleting your progesterone. And I'm like, what is the root cause now? Like, I'm not binge eating. I don't get it. And then I'm like, shit, it's the exercise. I had this deep limiting belief of, you have to move your body and you have to exercise consistently to lose weight and keep it off. And I was terrified to slow that down or to stop that for a period of time. And I'm like, I think this is it. Like, I think I actually have to just like stop going to the gym for a while and actually rest. And now some of you may not have a severe of as imbalances, and you can adjust your movement routine. But as an example, here in Canada, cortisol normal levels are like 375. I was at 2000. I honestly don't know how I didn't end up like, I don't know, fully with some serious health issue, because the person I was working with at the time was like, she's like 1,000 is the highest I had ever seen. And so, 2000. And in the States, the range is like 6 to 19. They keep making it bigger, but I've had women who are 30, 35, and I'm like, that's like really not good. Like even 20, 15, way too high. So I was like, I got to deal with this. I've got to work through this limiting belief. I was terrified. I'm like, what if I stop working out and keep gaining weight?
Right.
But it was so powerful, because as soon as I stopped, I'm resting, I'm napping, I'm just going for a leisurely walk, doing a little stretching. And I'm also consoling my wounded inner child and going, how can I help myself feel safe? Obviously, my body doesn't feel safe, hence this stress hormone being crazy, and I'm gaining all this weight. And I really stepped into full love and acceptance at that heaviest weight. And I really surrendered. I'm like, I'm not going to try to force weight loss. I just really need to heal. And as I went through that journey for the next 9 months, the weight fell off. I was eating a lot, like very nourishing, and like enjoying indulgence and stuff, and supporting my hormones properly. And I was like, mind-blowing moment. I don't need to use exercise to lose weight or keep it off. I actually need to focus on safety and my hormones and like the internal healing. And that was so liberating though, because it really helped me be able to help my clients go like, you don't need to do HIIT. You don't need like, maybe some of the movement is actually sabotaging your progress and just stressing the crap out of you, and then giving them permission that they can slow down and helping them clear the fears and insecurities around slowing down. Then their hormones are balancing, their periods are coming back, their sex drives are like everything's getting better. And so again, we've been conditioned to eat less and exercise more, but that's actually like making all the hormone stuff worse. So I just wanted to share that bit of the journey because I totally went through that. And then, yeah, like I wasn't weighing in. I was just like, I trust my body and I know she's going to go to what is natural for her as she sees, you know, the benefits of this. And yeah, it's just like easy to maintain your natural set point when you actually are dealing with all of these pieces and get them to a regulated state. And yeah, I just don't have to worry about it anymore. I know how to manage my hormones and my stress and my mindset. And I think those are the biggest things. And as you go into perimenopause, which starts between 35 and 37, yes, you're going to have to pay a little closer attention to your hormones and just ensure you're on top of things. But if you do that and you know how to support yourself, or you're working with someone that can really ensure you have as gentle of a transition, you know, into your 40s and then into menopause as possible, you are going to avoid so much suffering that we don't need to go through. Because yeah, your hormones dictate everything: your mood, your energy, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, your appetite, your cravings, right? Your energy levels, your mental clarity or lack thereof, your digestive function, weight. But women aren't properly educated about their hormones or how they're impacting them. So I'm happy to go into any specifics that you want, but I just wanted to share my own journey of like, I've been through, the only thing I didn't go through was low estrogen, essentially. That's the only one that I didn't have, but I've had a lot of clients who have, and we can build it back up.
So you can. That was going to be my question. Like, you can, obviously you brought down your cortisol.
Yes.
So, I guess like that's kind of the deal, is like, how do you get them? Do they just automatically go back up because you're no. Okay. Yeah. So,
well, and can I also kind of add or ask, because I think it's helpful, could you just give like a little brief description? You did a great job with cortisol, but with progesterone and estrogen and maybe even testosterone too. Like, could you just give a little brief description of what each of those do for the body?
Yeah. I'll break it down. And if you want to, what I can do is talk a little about some of the key symptoms that these things could be off, just those first signs. And it starts with cortisol. So I'm just going to go a little more into that first because it's literally the thing that's throwing everything else off. So cortisol is your stress hormone. You produce it in your adrenals, which sit on top of your kidneys. Okay. And as soon as you have stress, okay, the natural response is we have stress. The brain's like, I'm stressed. There's a little communication that happens, tells your adrenals, flood your body with cortisol and adrenaline to help you get out of the danger you're in. Because your body thinks there's a bear. Again, we're programmed from caveman days. So your body's like, I need to get this threat out of the way and protect you. But we're being met with like mini threats all the time. You're getting cut off in traffic. Your alarm scares you when you get up. You hear a noise in the night. Your dog barks and at a time you weren't expecting. I don't know, all the things, the negative self-talk, right? Money, like whatever the stuff is, it's just there's so many stressors now. And so we're constantly in fight or flight. And if we're constantly in that fight or flight, the brain is always stressed. So it is like overstimulating or essentially over communicating with your adrenals to flood the body with cortisol. Like there is serious threat. And so often then women, I see about 80% have high cortisol. And so when it's high, we're exhausted, fatigued, having trouble falling asleep, afternoon energy lulls, increased sugar, salt, and refined carb cravings, brain fog, low sex drive, abdominal weight gain. So the reason we start putting weight on or protection on in the abdomen is because your body is very intelligent. She's like, if there's a bear or a cougar and it tries to attack you in the abdomen, you have a higher chance of surviving if we put the weight and the retention on there, because there's your reproductive, your urinary, your digestive system are vulnerable and exposed, right? We have a rib cage protecting our lungs and our heart, but the rest is pretty exposed, right? So that's the intelligence of your body, is let's put the protection on there first. So then you see women get upset because they're gaining all this weight in the abdomen. They add more cardio and eat less, and that just spikes your cortisol higher, and over caffeinating does the same thing. So that's where we can see this innocently like blow up in our faces and get frustrated with our results, because it's, if you're overstimulated, same with exercise, your brain can't tell healthy stress from unhealthy stress. So if you're over exercising, brain's just like, this is a threat, put on weight. It doesn't matter how good your workout routine is, you're your personal trainer. So yeah, and then women in their cyclical years can start to see their periods disappear or get a lot shorter. They have trouble getting pregnant or staying pregnant. You have more anxiety. You feel spread too thin. And I'm just being more descriptive with the cortisol because it is literally like, I have not had a woman ever in the last 12 years that has not had a cortisol issue. So this is important. Every woman get this tested. So then what ends up happening from here is I start to see issues with thyroid function. Now, of course, part of it could be your family had a thyroid issue, but to me, it's not necessarily as genetic as it is the habits and behaviors. If your mom has been emotionally eating or people pleasing and she's choking her words back and she's not speaking her truth, like we have an energy center here that will be suppressed. It's called the throat chakra. And if you're holding everything in and you're suppressing your emotion and you're hanging on to everything,
that's why.
you will shut off or like diminish or deplete your thyroid function. I have gone through experience personally or with clients where we do all the pretty stuff with supplements and foods, and it's when they actually start speaking their truth and then it fully comes back online. So that's the proof of like the energy and the emotional component of healing. But anyways, with thyroid, what ends up happening is your brain is overstimulated with all the stress, like we were just talking about, right? And so we have a gland called the pituitary gland, and that produces thyroid stimulating hormone. And that helps communicate to the thyroid, hey, produce your thyroid hormones. The problem is we start producing too much TSH, okay? And too much is not good.
What's
and then we start TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay. That's what the pituitary produces. Too much is no good. Okay. Here's the problem. The range for TSH is way too big. USA, it's 0.5 to 3.50. Here in Canada, it's 0.5 to 6.50. It's ridiculous. And to have a healthy TSH is like 0.7 to 1.75. If you're above that, ladies, you are ending up in sluggish thyroid territory. It doesn't matter to me what your doctor's saying. I have a lot of colleagues that are in functional medicine, doctors who are more holistically minded, thyroid experts, and we all agree accumulatively, and this is like hundreds of us, that like this tiny little sweet spot is optimal. You start going above that, the weight gain, the hair loss, eyebrow thinning, cold hands and feet, constipation, joint pain, muscle pain, brain fog, cold extremities, waking between 3 and 4 a.m., you don't feel hungry, okay? Because your thyroid metabolism are so connected. And this is why diets can make thyroid function worse, because when you restrict in as little as 4 days, it can inhibit your thyroid function and your metabolism, right? So this is why we need to be monitoring things like thyroid, cortisol. It doesn't matter to me who you are, but especially if you're healing your relationship with food, or you've had a bariatric surgery, or just like anything that's like going to shift your body for a period of time. Like we just want to monitor these things a little more closely to ensure that you're getting the right support as your body adjusts to a change, right? So yeah, those are some of the common symptoms of hypothyroid pertaining to TSH. And then the thyroid itself produces T4. T4 doesn't really do a lot, but it is converted into T3, and that is what I call your golden thyroid hormone. Gives you energy, helps with the metabolism, helps you poop better, like all these symptoms I was just talking about, it helps prevent all of that. And so we have high cortisol, and it's skyrocketing our TSH, and stress in the body makes it hard for the thyroid to produce those thyroid hormones. She's like, I'm tired. I feel suppressed. I don't have the energy to do all of this. And then you throw in emotional eating, processed food, inflammatory food, antibiotics, poor gut health. Very easy to suppress your thyroid. And then it's that on top of it. And then with progesterone and estrogen, what ends up happening is we need our thyroid to function pretty decently to produce enough progesterone, and vice versa. We need to produce progesterone to help with thyroid function. Everything is so connected. Often though, what I see with women, it's very rare I ever see a woman with high progesterone. Like, in my opinion, you're always better off to have a little more than a little less, but we want to ensure it's not too high. But yeah, every woman that I've connected with has low progesterone. Okay. So why? So we produce the majority of our our estrogen and progesterone in our ovulation. We need our egg quality to be pretty decent. So if you're inflamed, your body is stressed, like your egg quality diminishes. And that's why some women are in trouble to get pregnant, right? So ovulation, cyclical years, that is where the majority is produced. And we produce some estrogen via the adrenal glands that I was just talking about earlier. And a little bit of material is also saved to produce some progesterone. However, if your adrenals are stressed, you're not going to be producing any progesterone and estrogen from the adrenals. And if you're not ovulating, you're not going to be producing estrogen and progesterone via your cycle and your reproductive. So low progesterone, to me, this is like the silent sufferer. This is the one that is not necessarily, like, we don't learn about this. There's a lot of hype right now about cortisol, but progesterone we need to give more attention to as well. So when your progesterone's low, you can have more breast tenderness, shorter periods, or skip cycles. But the irony is you can also have very long periods and they're heavy, and you can have spotting. Your mood is significantly impacted when you have low progesterone. So We need progesterone to produce GABA, which helps us fall asleep and also helps us feel more stable. Same with serotonin. We need progesterone to produce serotonin. It is the calming hormone, progesterone. So it helps
Okay.
us prevent anxiety. It helps prevent depression. We also need progesterone to help the proper communication with oxytocin. Now, if you lack this, you may feel disconnected with yourself. You could feel disconnected from your spouse, your kids, the people you love the most. All of a sudden, it's just like, I literally feel nothing.
Nothing.
This makes you feel flatlined. You don't feel creative. You lack motivation, and you can actually become a lot more in negative self talk and criticism of yourself and others.
Okay.
And it's like, why? I don't understand all of a sudden why I've had this change of heart. And then we get in our heads and go, what's wrong with me? Am I crazy kind of dialogue? But it's this low progesterone literally like impacts all of these functions. And we also need progesterone to produce dopamine. So this is why so many women with low progesterone get into binge and emotional eating behaviors because their mood's low. They want a quick reward. So they go into alcohol or shopping or eating or whatever the things are. But then that's just stressing them out even more.
Oh,
So,
totally.
yeah, low progesterone and mood is massive. We crave more sugar when our progesterone's low. We don't sleep well. This is the other thing I see. You're awake between 1 to 4 p.m. or a.m. and you can't sleep. And that just impacts everything.
Oh yeah, I
So,
know plenty of women. I'm just thinking of people in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so bad for you guys.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I haven't had much problem, thank goodness, but like still I know like Shay right here has had lots of these
Yep,
Yeah.
issues.
everything you're saying, I'm just like, yes. And actually, it makes a lot of sense because I experienced a lot of those symptoms this last fall
That's
and
what I was
winter.
thinking.
Mm,
I know.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
like, oh, that's probably what it was. I was thinking it from some other things too. But with the progesterone, can you supplement with that? Or like, or is there a way to take that? What's the treatment for that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So, ideally, with progesterone, there's a few factors we want to consider. How old are you?
Okay.
Because if you're in your 20s or early 30s, likely we want to look at what else is causing the low progesterone. And we can do like yam drops, yam cream, progesterone foods, as well as probably adrenal support, making sure your thyroid's functioning properly, and then go healing any behaviors that are stressing your body out. If we can do those things, your body is in a state where she's going to ovulate and going to like be able to build these things back up. Even with PCOS, I've had women with PCOS and they start ovulating and a lot of their symptoms resolve and then they go back to the doctor and like, I don't even think you have this anymore. So we can see significant improvements if we reduce inflammation, help with blood sugar, things like that. It's where we kind of get into a bit of a gray zone with, supporting progesterone is when you hit your mid 30s, because you're starting into perimenopause. So if you're very stressed, if you have a lot on your plate and your levels have constantly been showing a depleted state for whatever the reasons are, we can still use some really wonderful supplements like chaste tree berry, red raspberry leaf tea. Obviously, please consult with your healthcare practitioner. Don't just start taking these things. You got to be working with someone to ensure what is right for you. And first, we need to see your levels, which is
Yes.
going to dictate what you need. But then we can also start the conversation of, is bioidentical hormone replacement therapy appropriate? Because even myself and some of my clients, like most of them are in their like late 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond. And the body just gets to a point where she is struggling to produce these levels. And now you're doing everything you can and you're still suffering and it's impacting your sleep and your mood and all of these things. And bioidentical still comes from yams. It comes from plants. So it's not the synthetic form like what is in a birth control pill. So I'm all for more of those kinds of things. But
Mhm.
in that case, I'm referring to a specialist that can do testing, ensure that they're a good candidate for it. And then we can still do a lot with supplementation and foods. But a lot of women are like, I feel like a whole new woman, you know, doing this kind of thing as well.
Wow.
But here's obviously the big thing is no form of supplement or progesterone like hormone is going to fix this if you don't heal your relationship with food, the people pleasing. If you keep putting yourself last and you are not making the behavioral and lifestyle changes, it's not going to do what it's meant to do. It
No.
doesn't matter what the protocol is. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I will vouch for that because as a people pleaser and I did it for so long. and I was a teen mom. So here's the deal, guys. If you guys are struggling and you finally get pregnant and have a baby, you will go on the back burner, right? Like it
Yeah.
just, you're naturally, that's going to happen.
Hmm.
So I really highly suggest getting yourself healed and figuring that out with the people pleasing, because once the baby comes, your whole focus in life goes into that baby, especially for
Hmm.
the toddler little years. Like you're all in, and your body wants to be, right? Like
Yeah.
we're made to be, mothers, and that's really why we're here, is to procreate and have babies, and we need to protect them, and we need to nourish them, but we need to nourish ourselves first as moms before we even have the baby.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
like I can see it even with Shay. It's like, yeah, I want her, like, I know she's going to be a fantastic mother. She's going to be a fucking amazing mom. And I'm so stoked. I can't wait for it to happen. But I want her to be fully healed before that happens, because I know what that toll takes. Like,
Yeah.
because I was a teen mom, I was in survivor, like flight or fight all the time. And now when you're talking, it makes sense why I just got bigger and bigger and bigger as a mom,
Hmm.
and dealing with all the stressors I was dealing with, and thinking like, wow, Melanie, you were doing like way too much. And, but I was like coping with food. So I was like, whatever, I'm getting my shit done. But, I didn't realize how much I was putting a toll on my body until my late 20s.
Yeah.
And so if you guys are listening, I want you guys to go the right route. I want you guys to feel healed with your food, get your hormones checked. Like I'm 38 now. So like
Same.
would you call it perimenopause, right? Is that what
It
we're
starts
in?
between 35 and 37, so you're getting into it
So
now.
I'm in
Yeah.
it. Okay. So
Yeah.
can you tell me some of those symptoms? Just because
Yeah.
a lot of things have been randomly happening these last year or two, and I'm just like,
Okay. Yeah.
what is happening?
Yeah, and I'll also weave into that the estrogen and
Yes.
testosterone piece, because
Yes.
that is also playing a role in this. So perimenopause, right? So essentially we're educated that your period's going to like decline or something, and that's potentially might start to change in your late 30s, but it's usually more into your 40s that you'll
I'm
see
saying,
that symptom.
I'm so regular. It's like not even funny. And
Yeah.
still, yeah.
So it's more so not necessarily like obvious cyclical symptoms that you may experience. Some women may, but essentially when we hit perimenopause between 35 and 37, our progesterone production starts to naturally decline.
Okay.
And that's partially because of different functions in the body. We're not producing certain like antioxidants and things as much. And I find, again, just in modern day society, especially in North America, we've been through a lot of stressors. We've been through a lot of things, and that just chronic stress can just kickstart us into it more easily. But essentially, our ovulation may not be as strong. Our egg quality may not be as optimal as it would have been in our early 30s, 20s, right? So all of that impacts our progesterone function. And also the other reasons for that is your cortisol starts to sneak up more easily.
Okay.
And as that starts to happen again, some of the material that your adrenals would use to produce some of that progesterone in your adrenals get eaten up and converted into cortisol. Also, we can start to see a decline in estrogen for some of the same reasons, but a lot of women honestly kickstart perimenopause early because they've had hormone imbalances that they didn't know about in their 20s and their early 30s, and like nobody looked at them, or they didn't know what to ask for, or whatever the reasons are. And so it just like makes it so much easier. Also, our thyroid function starts to decline just slightly. I don't even want to like affirm these things. Like I think you can fully like, I don't want to say delay, but like support your hormones and your like endocrines optimally to like not have these things really happen in the same way. But these are like things that naturally start to shift in the body. And so your gut flora changes, your gut bacteria, and all of this makes it a little harder for the body to combat inflammation, and then you get more inflamed. The more inflamed you are, the more stressed your body gets. It inhibits your thyroid, your progesterone production. Inflammation makes your egg quality more poor. You may not be ovulating. Like you can have a period and not ovulate. It's called anovulation. And if you're not ovulating, you're probably going to see really low progesterone and maybe low estrogen.
Okay.
And then our blood sugar gets more sensitive. We can be more prone to insulin resistance.
Mhm.
A1C can slowly creep up, which is that pre-diabetic marker, cholesterols, because your liver's like, I've been around the block for a long time now, and unless you're giving me lots of love, like I'm stressed and I'm trying to deal with a lot. I know your cortisol's high, and And high cortisol stresses your liver out. That's actually a key reason women have high cholesterol. High cortisol causes the liver to get more sluggish. You can't break it down and eliminate excess out of the body, right? So things like that can start to happen when you start gaining weight, potentially brain fog, low energy, you're having the insomnia, you're having trouble falling or staying asleep. And then pertaining to specifically estrogen, I think these are some of the things that are really important to pay attention to, ladies, because we can prevent a lot of this. And some of these can really impact our ability to go about our day. So estrogen is also, I deem like progesterone and estrogen, like the feminine hormones. They're your sex hormones. They help with reproduction, building babies, all that good stuff. And this helps with regulating your cycle and your ovulation, but it also supports mood and vaginal health. So we were talking about earlier, if you have low estrogen, you're not going to have good vaginal lubrication, whether you're like in your 20s, 30s, whatever age you are, and then it's going to decline into your 40s and 50s. So if you support good estrogen, you're not going to have that vaginal dryness, which you can have painful sex and stuff like that. Also, without lubrication can be more recurrent UTIs for women. That's not fun. So we need the lubrication of both the reproductive and our general skin to help be in an optimal place. Also with estrogen, we need enough of it to maintain the fluid balance between our ears. With low estrogen or progesterone or both, even with high progesterone, so that's where like if women take too much progesterone, you can feel dizzy, lightheaded, vertigo, tinnitus, okay? But these are also symptoms of low estrogen. So think of all of a sudden, if you start having symptoms like this, you think to go see the ear doctor, but maybe they're not versed in hormones. And then they're like, I don't know why it's happening. Always, whatever you're referred to, get your hormones tested too, because I'm guaranteeing you there's probably something also going on hormonally as that estrogen declines that is contributing potentially to these symptoms I'm talking about. Obviously, with low estrogen can come low sex drive, poor bone density. This is why mindful strength training, keeps your bone mass up. It's important for brain function, cardiovascular health, all those kinds of things. So as those sex hormones both start to decline, we can have more of these symptoms that I've been talking about. You don't have to have these symptoms though. The hot sweats, the night flashes, that stuff doesn't have to happen if we can keep our levels in like a sweet spot place for us. And that's going to look a little different for each woman. But then as we go more into menopause, which starts in our early 50s, for most women, some start earlier, where you haven't had a period for a year. That's one of the things they deem as being in menopause. Your period has been gone for a year. Now what's happening is because you're not ovulating, your adrenals actually take over producing all your estrogen. Okay. But you need testosterone to make the estrogen. Okay. This is the big thing. And you are still, like, even in your cyclical years, you need to produce DHEA, actually. It is the precursor hormone that is needed to produce testosterone and some estrogen. That is a steroid hormone produced by the adrenals. If your adrenals are stressed, often it's too low. But if we're inflamed, we have high insulin, then it can be too high. But we do need that hormone DHEA to produce our testosterone and some estrogen. And then, once we're in menopause, we need our adrenals to produce all of our estrogen, that bit of progesterone, and then convert it into the testosterone and the estrogen. So it's your adrenals literally take everything over. And that's why adrenal health and function becomes crucial the more you get into perimenopause and menopause, because if your cortisol's through the roof and you're highly stressed, you're not going to be producing those adequate levels of those other hormones. And that is going to give you the sleep, the moody emotions, the weight gain. Like, you can try anything. It'll feel impossible to lose weight. Your cravings, increased appetite levels, constipation, you're bloated, and again, it doesn't have to be that way, but those are some of the biggest things that I see. And we're not taught wow, you need to produce DHEA to convert into these other hormones. Like, what? No, don't we just produce testosterone if we lift weights? No, actually, it helps with that communication and conversion, but we also need, to produce some testosterone. That's important, and that will start to decline into perimenopause as well. And testosterone is libido, sex drive. Obviously, so is every other hormone, but being able to build muscle mass, we need to have some testosterone to do that, and strength. It does help with motivation as well. That's why I call it the action hormone, or the masculine hormone because it helps you be motivated. And then it does help with bone density and it does help with memory as well. So it's like this is why it gets confusing with like, oh wow, I'm having all these symptoms. How do I know if I have low testosterone, estrogen, or whatever? You got to get your hormones tested.
Yeah.
You can't guess. Please don't go on ChatGPT and be like, I have these symptoms. Do you think I have low testosterone? No, please don't do that because then if you're like, okay, what supplements should I take? Well, what if you take something that actually will mess with your thyroid now and mess with your adrenals? Like there are so many supplements that are good for one thing, but could actually throw something else off. And so I can't stress enough why it's so important to actually like get help to review all of this and get the proper recommendations, because otherwise you can do more harm than good innocently, just trying to like Google your way through, and you will like, I don't want you to end up making it worse than it already is. And then you have to spend even more time going to see someone and like get them to fix and heal things that, because I did that myself. Like when I didn't Google, but I was like, oh, I have high cortisol. I'm going to take all the maca and all this, but I didn't know my estrogen was high, and maca makes your estrogen high, and it was just making it worse. Right. So it's like, I learned a bit of guinea pigging myself before I got the education. And I was like, okay, there's a way to do this. We need to be mindful. Right. And like, yeah, so hormones are interconnected, but it's something that every woman needs to be getting tested at least once a year. And if you have imbalances, at least twice a year, maybe even a little bit more sometimes.
Interesting. Once a year.
At least once a year, especially once you get into perimenopause. Oh my goodness, like stuff can change in a few months, right? Or think of, some women are like, they've been taking vitamin D for like 20 years, like 5,000 IU a day. And they're like, yeah, I just need to take it every day because everyone's deficient. You could also end up with vitamin D toxicity and have levels that are way too high, and then you're peeing all night, and then that messes up all your hormones, right? Like we can end up with deficiency, but excess. And so testing regularly, including vitamins and minerals and inflammatory markers and hormones, is going to ensure we don't overdo it. And if there's a depletion, we can catch it as well before it gets really severe. So,
goodness.
And with that too, Amber, correct me if I'm wrong with this, but it also is important if you are still having your cycle, it's important when you get the hormone testing within your cycle, right? Because that's something I'm working on right now with my doctor, where I'm getting my progesterone checked day 21 of my cycle to see if I am ovulating and see if everything's functioning with that. But I think that's something too that people don't realize, is that obviously your hormones, or maybe not obviously, I shouldn't say it like that, but your hormones do fluctuate depending on where you're at in your cycle. And so it depends on the levels. Is that making sense, or am I saying that right?
You're so right. Yeah. So for accuracy, we do need to, especially for progesterone and estrogen, it's usually day 19 to 21. However, say you have a really short cycle, it may be like day 16 to 18, right? So it's really dependent on, are you a 28-day gal? Are you 25, 36? And then with all the other tests, like cortisol and things like that, we've got to go fasting before 8 a.m. You're going to get an inaccurate result if you go for a blood draw for cortisol at 9, 9:30, 10 a.m. Because it's when you wake, and within that, there's like a 2-hour cortisol window, but I personally think it's more like an hour, where your cortisol is highest, and it's supposed to be peaked in the morning when you first wake up to help get you going and get your day, running. However, there's a normal healthy amount we should produce, but then it's all the excess, and that test is going to be most accurate first thing in the morning, pertaining to how in excess is it. Or some women have low cortisol, and that's adrenal burnout. And that's where you've probably been high for a long time, and now your adrenals are like I just can't produce anymore, and it drops too low. It's similar symptoms. But even knowing high versus low is going to dictate the protocol we're going to do, because they both take different approaches. Like as an example, if your cortisol is too high, you do not want to take licorice products. It's going to just make it higher and overstimulate you, but can be helpful in mindful amounts if it's too low. So again, but yeah, totally. Day 19 to 21, somewhere in there. And then, we need to fast for certain tests. So just making sure that you're getting the proper instruction of when to go, because your doctor will be like, yeah, we'll do all the tests. But if they don't tell you to fast or to go at a certain time, that's also going to confuse you when the results come back and everything looks fine, but it may not have been done at the right time or the right date.
Yeah, because my doctor, because I got a new doctor, and I was like, I want to get all the things tested.
Yeah.
And she questioned me a little bit, but I was like, no. I want everything tested. My hormones have never been tested.
Wow.
I'm 38, never been tested, guys. So I find it very important. But she said, because I'm taking a low dose, birth control, the pill, that I would have to go off of that because I'm getting that hormone. So what is your take on that? Considering
Honestly,
your face was like,
well,
I
here's the
don't know.
thing. I've had clients be on the pill and we get testing done. If you've got a significant imbalance, it's going to show up whether you're on birth control or not.
Okay.
Yeah. And then and then what we want to do is if then women are deciding to come off of the birth control pill or birth or hormonal IUD, then we can test before, and then we want to wait like 3 to 6 months to test again and get that hormone out of the body, because we're going to get accurate levels of like, okay, how much progesterone do you have now that you're off of this? Is your body using? Are you depleted? But yeah, I've had women, it's very blatantly obvious,
Okay.
based on your symptoms and your results, even if you're on it.
Got it. Because I
Yeah,
was like, wait a minute. I kind of like being on birth control just because, like, I don't want a baby at
fair
38.
enough.
So that's the thing.
I swear by copper IUD. That's my secret or my thing. Like I just find no hormones, but it's very, like the percentage is really good for like protection and stuff. So yeah,
Nice. Did it
yeah.
hurt going in though?
Not really.
Okay.
After you have an abscessed tooth, I swear, like I'm just like, that's one of the worst things I've ever experienced in my life. But yeah, some women can have cramping upon insertion just because your body is adjusting to that foreign object. If you continue to have cramping before your cycle, actually, you're probably too inflamed and probably have gut issues and hormone issues that are making the cramping worse.
Oh, okay.
Once we resolve those things, cramps usually go away, are very minimal. Yeah. Mhm.
So, question. So, gut health with everything else. How important is gut health? Because we know hormones now are playing a huge factor.
Yeah.
Mindset, obviously, but I know personally that gut is huge. But I definitely want our listeners to hear, why is it so important?
It is massive, yeah. So your gut and your mood and your immunity are all so connected. And if your gut is out of whack and your gut flora and your liver isn't functioning properly, you're probably going to feel a lower mood or more brain fog or more fatigue. You may not be moving your bowels properly. We know bowel movements are a form of detoxification and eliminating toxicity out of the body. Often women with gut issues will have more poor immunity and they get flus and colds more easily, or they last longer.
Okay.
I often find women who have gut flora issues, so it's like candida, gut flora imbalance because they've taken antibiotics, eaten a lot of sugar, had a lot of stress. Throws our gut flora off. We end up with far more unhealthy. That'll make us crave more sugar. I swear it has a mind of its own, that candida. When there's too much of it, it literally like overrides most things that make you say no to it. So yeah, sugar cravings, blood sugar issues, inflammation, it contributes to like, all the hormone stuff, and they all kind of feed each other. So, and because we produce serotonin in the gut, that is our like stable mood boosting neurotransmitter, that gets suppressed. And then again, it can make it easier for us to go into these dopamine, quick, like euphoric, self-sabotaging behaviors. And you don't even realize that it could be because your gut's off. With gut health as well, rooted in gut imbalances is inflammation. And even if you're not bloated or you don't feel like you eat and then you don't get any digestive symptoms, if you've got acne, if you're having breakouts, psoriasis, eczema, headaches, migraines, like this could all be rooted in poor gut function. You don't have to just have bloating to have a gut issue.
Yeah.
It can stem out into other symptoms that seem like they have nothing to do with your gut, but everything is very correlated. Unhealthy gut is going to spike your cortisol. It's going to potentially inhibit your thyroid function and suppress your progesterone. Also with candida and, unhealthy gut flora potentially comes higher estrogen. If your liver is overwhelmed, you're not going to be able to break down excess hormones easily, including estrogen, and that can make your estrogen too high. And then, you're feeling hot and sweaty and gaining weight really easily, and it really impacts your mood. So we see direct correlations between our gut and our hormones and our blood sugar. Often as well, you just feel more sensitive between a meal if you don't eat regularly, because those gut bugs are just stressing your system out. So I think there's many connections to it. And I think we need to be very gentle with the way that we support our gut. There's so many like detoxes in a box, and like I'll do like just start drinking cucumber juice every day and like skip your breakfast. I'm like, please don't do anything extreme. Like take a good probiotic. However, then we need to understand what's going on with your gut function and focus on one gentle thing at a time. So instead of taking 10 liver supplements or eating a bunch of dandelion greens or going on a liver detox, which could honestly make you feel very unwell,
Yeah.
headaches, migraines, like anger, because anger sits in the liver. And if you're detoxing physically or detoxing emotionally, we want to like be mindful with that. You got to still function and go about your day, right?
I hold on. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
That anger sits in your liver.
Yeah, anger is stored in the liver. Often grief is stored in the lungs. Colon is all about letting go of the past. So, yeah, each organ has its emotional kind of like energetic structures, and so we want to go gentle with supporting gut and healing the gut, and you know, whatever it is that we're working on, because I just think we've been taught like fast and hard, and then it just stresses your body out more. As an example, if we detox too quickly with the gut, or we're on too long of a detox, cortisol goes up, thyroid gets depressed. Like, detox is a stressor, right? So again, the brain can't tell good like stress from bad stress. It's not like, oh, you're detoxing, we won't stress the body out. Like, it's right. So
it's just a stressor, so it just automatic.
Yeah.
And I never heard of those terms, that grief holds in the lungs and liver's anger, and wow.
Fear in the kidneys. Yeah.
Fear in the kidneys. Interesting. So we're just a big ball of emotions. Like,
bless our hearts.
I told you. I try to tell everyone.
She does. She does. And holy shit. Like, because like, Shay, maybe you can explain this a little bit better, but like, you were telling me like the purging also like is a thing. Oh, we got Amber shaking her head yes too. So
yeah, well, we should run this by
Yeah.
her. This would be interesting to ask. So Mel has been having, well, and this is your story too, but she's been having some issues with having more vomiting more frequently. And one thing I was telling her is like, she's just had a lot of life changes in the last year, like lots of stuff going on. And I said to her, I'm like, it seems like it's more of a physical representation of like letting go of a lot of things that have been really toxic. Like, and it's just interesting how our bodies respond to that. Like, I even found that for myself. It was after having my weight loss surgery, but I would have these periods where my weight would stall. I would have this like big emotional, mental breakthrough. And then my weight literally the next day would go down pretty significantly. And so that's one thing her and I were talking about, where I'm like, I think it's your body's just way of like getting rid of old toxic stuff, and it's just manifesting in that way.
I couldn't agree more. That's one of the things, right?
See, I know what I'm talking
about. It's the vomiting. Some will have like loose stools. Like it's the mucus, like you're just blowing your nose nonstop. Obviously, like, get things checked out if it's continuing or you have concern around it. I went through the gallbladder purge. I like literally wasn't doing anything. And all of a sudden I had all the gallbladder symptoms. My gallbladder's fine, but it was all the shame and the anger and guilt that was in my gallbladder was releasing, and I was nauseous and my throat was burning like I had reflux and I was dizzy and like, I saw an energy healer and she's like, it's totally energetic and you're releasing stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's like relieving, because I'm like, what is going on? But I did go and get an ultrasound, just make sure my gallbladder was fine, right? Precautions. But yeah, sometimes it's fully emotional or energetic. That's like a whole, we could spend a whole 2 hours talking, honestly.
We might have to have you on. Again. Yeah, I know. Like, there's just, you're wowing my brain right now. I'm just like, holy shit. Because like, deep. And it's not like I didn't believe you, of course, Shay, but it was just like, oh my God, like, how intelligent is our fucking body?
Yeah.
You know,
so
like,
much.
It's like, I'm just so fascinated by our bodies. I've seen what it can do, big and small, and just what it can handle. Like, it's insane. And to think,
well, and Mel, you were just saying too, though, you even lost some weight after this weekend.
I did,
too, right? And I said, see, you're getting rid of stuff and you're physically, like, literally becoming lighter.
Yeah. Like, it's so wild, because when I left, I was 183. So literally a week from today, I left. I went to Shay's. We did a bunch of meetup stuff. So much fun. But I did have some puking episodes, right?
Oh, okay.
And then literally I weigh in today, and the last couple of days I've checked it. It's been the same. Yeah, 180. Yeah. Just flat 180. And I'm like, whoa, this is why. And I was around positive people. I was around caring people. It was legit like really overwhelming for me because like I'm not I mean I cried to Shay about it because I'm now 38 years old and I'm feeling cared for by
Oh,
my friends and family. It's an
yay.
interesting dynamic shift, but I can see that my body is liking the shift
Yeah.
and is now I think I'm finally accepting the shift.
Yeah.
And realizing like I deserve to be around people that care about
Yeah.
me just as much as I care about them. So,
Totally.
and yeah, like I haven't puked since we got back.
That's good. Yeah, you're releasing and you're feeling safer. And when you're in that environment with where others are like treating you well and there's an equal exchange of energy, you feel safe, your nervous system feels safe, you're going to release retention, weight. I had an experience a few years ago where I was healing my relationship with money and I was like screaming into my pillow and beating it up every day, all the guilt, the shame, all the old memories around money. I lost 10 pounds that year. I didn't do anything else, but it was literally all the suppressed emotion that my body was holding. And I was like, what did I do? And then I'm like, this is the only thing that's different. I must have released a bunch of stuff. Like,
Yep.
that's where I'm saying, like, it's not just about food and exercise and taking some supplements. Like, you may do all those things, but you need to then look at what's going on emotionally that I need to work on healing. And that's where you'll see the shift.
Guys,
Right?
this is like
It's
you
deep.
gotta work on your healing with all sorts of things.
Yes.
Because like this year has been such a transition of just getting toxic people out of my life.
Awesome.
That's been, and there's been a slew of them, not just one, you know, like there's been a set of people. And now I feel like I'm at a point where there's no one left. Everyone's great. Like I think that's why everything is like slowly getting more positive and feeling better. And like,
Yeah.
I feel good in my clothes. Like things are looser. Like it's just wild.
Good for you.
And like, I'm not moving crazy amounts. Like it's just like my food's on point and I'm doing like the healing. I do all of my therapy every Tuesday. I do my journaling. I read books. Like it's funny because this time last year, Mel wasn't doing any of this, you know, and that was when Melanie like hit the top of her regain was last 2024 July. And so I've had to really shift and change myself this last full year. And now I'm getting all these like awesome things happening, like, you know, good consequences, like, you know, accomplishments. It's great. And to know that your body like recognizes it.
Oh, yeah. She
Like,
does.
She does. I love this. I love this. Shay, do you have any more questions for her before we let her go? And
Yeah, I think just my last question, I always find this answer just very interesting. But like for you, Amber, looking back at your past self, whatever age kind of stands out to you, what's one thing that you would tell her? And if you can tell us kind of the age that comes to mind for you.
Yeah, she'd be about 19. And I would just tell her, like, don't stress so much. Oh my goodness, you have so much to look forward to. Be more playful and fun and enjoy your day more and just you have nothing to fear. All the things you made fear up about never ended up happening. So let go of that and focus on the good and all the good that you're going to create because it just was better than I could have ever imagined because I healed.
yeah,
And I'm healing. We're all healing every day. So,
right.
Yeah.
I love that answer. So good. Well, thank you, Amber, so much for coming on. We're going to have all of her links below so you can find her, click on her. You can accept patients, right?
Yeah, totally. You can book a 30-minute consultation. It's complimentary and we can connect on Zoom and see what you need help with.
Look at that, ladies. And I know this community is like 92% women. And
cool.
I know that a bunch of us don't know anything about hormones. Like I'm 38, still learning. And Shay has taught me a lot and you just blew my mind with so much. And I know I'm probably speaking for other people, but I think we could have you on again because I think this might jumpstart a bunch of questions for people.
Yeah.
And I would even love to have you with our patrons because our benchies probably have a shit ton of questions. And the age range is so cool because it's like, I think the youngest is like 24, but the highest is like in the 60s.
Totally.
So like we have so many different types of women and what they've gone through. And, you know, we even have people that have chronic pain, that have autoimmune disorders. And I think we should talk more about that stuff next time.
Sure.
That would be so much fun.
I would be honored to come back again and help and answer questions, whatever you guys want. I just want women to be informed and know so they can feel better. This is about helping each other heal. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
appreciate
appreciate
that.
it.
Well, thank you, Amber, and thank you, Shay, from the waiting table to come on. All her stuff will,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, all her stuff will be linked below too. She also runs the weekly chew with me with the patrons, and we have the book club. That's right. We are ending the first book, the Let Them Theory, and then we're going to be going on to the next one. What is it called again? I know it has bones in it.
I know. I always get the title mixed up. It's The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune. So we're switching it up. It is a very different kind of book than the Let Them Theory, but it's really good. I'm
Yes.
excited for that
And that's
one.
what's fun, right, Shay, is that it's going to be like all sorts of different books, and people help pick it that are in the group.
Yep.
So
We vote. We all vote for it. And yeah, it's fun.
so much fun. All righty, guys. Well, thank you so much. And until next time, take your protein, get your water, get your vitamins, and don't be an asshole to one another.